everybody. Just raise this up. So I'm going to be talking about Alopex Gold today, a new IPO on the 13th of July this year. This is, as Eric said, a gold development and exploration company, and I'll be going through where we are, what our main objectives are, and our main asset base. Some forward-looking statements here, I'm sure you all take a good notice of. So Alopex Gold is, as I said earlier, is a Greenlandic-focused gold exploration company, and actually is the only listed entity that you can buy into gold in Greenland. Partly that is due to the fact that we have been, over the past 5 years, acquiring from 3 different companies what we believe is the most prominent gold assets in South Greenland. Okay. We started working there in 2012, and we started going into this country focusing on our main asset, which is a past producer called the Nalunaq gold mine. They produced between 2004 to 2014 350,000 ounces. Majority of that production was between 2004 to 2009. Okay, this is extremely high-grade mine. And was producing at a diluted grade of 15.4 gram per ton at a cost per ounce of $530. Put that into perspective where you are in what country. Currently we have a resource in this mine of 263,000 ounces inferred at 18.7 gram per ton. Furthermore, we have an exploration potential which we have confirmed, meaning that we have found the vein in 1 kilometer distance. This is another vein gold deposit. And that gives us a exploration potential of 1.2 million ounces, which I'll explain a little bit later. The current license that we have cover 535 square kilometer. The most recent one that we acquired is called the Vagar, and we acquired that from the state-owned company Nuna Minerals. And that has been explored quite a bit, and I will explain that quite a bit later. Our total shares outstanding are 49.5 million shares. Pre-IPO shares were 36 million shares, and we sold 13.5. Our largest shareholder is Cyrus Capital Partners, which is a PE-based fund out of New York. A $4 billion fund, and we have a large shareholding also in Iceland and Scandinavia, and then obviously in Canada and mainland Europe. So we have, I would say, we'd have fairly clean structure. Obviously, it's a new IPO, so we only have broker warrants outstanding from the current IPO. So there is, it's pretty clean. To put it into perspective where we are, I'm based in Iceland, and all of our licenses are here in South Greenland. As you can see from here, we have basically 2 regional belts. One is Nanortalik Gold Belt, and the other one is Tartu Gold Belt. These are fairly large gold belt, and our key asset, which we strive to get into production hopefully in the next couple of years, is Nalunaq. And that's what I will be speaking the most about today. I'm going to line into South Greenland, so this is basically here. There is an international airport here in South Greenland, where there are direct flights between Iceland and Greenland. There are also shipping companies in Iceland that delivers goods to these 3 local towns here in South Greenland. The local town that is closest to our mine is Nanortalik, only half an hour away from Nalunaq. And we hold the majority of the licenses here that have known gold discoveries in the Nanortalik Gold Belt. This is similar in geology as you would find in a BDP Gold Belt. It's younger rocks, but similar geology. So it's a real opportunity. Only 1 gold mine has been producing there, and we are focusing on getting that back into production. And then you have a lot of interesting licenses with completely exposed to the surface gold occurrences coming to the surface. So it's not something that you do in geophysical surveying to try to find on 800-meter depth, etc., etc. So what's important in Greenland is that Greenland is obviously very, very prospective, and one of the things that is a challenge with Greenland is a cost, making sure that you can explore in a cost-efficient manner. And that's how Iceland comes in a good way. We have managed over the past 5 years to run our programs in very efficiently and on budget all the time, partly because we are so close, partly we can get equipment in, we can get people in quicker, easier, and we know it. Icelandic companies have built hydropower plants here. There is another Icelandic company who run fishery companies here. So there is quite a lot of presence in the region by Icelandic individuals. And I should say that a fair bit of our newest IPO, we have a good support from family offices and institutions in Iceland. Now I'm looking at I'm looking at this mine here, which is in this fjord here. By the way, this is open sea access all year round. This is more southerly than Iceland. We are working there all the way up to the end of October on surface, so it's different. Again, this is one of the things that we look at coming from Iceland, that it is something that we can operate fairly easily. So that's important to know. So Nalunaq mine. So this is a mine that was set up in 2003. Okay, and this was set up by Crew Gold. So they made an investment in harbor, road. There is an investment in the underground processing plant that is still there. And this mine was only closed in 2014. So all of these assets are in good shape. Okay. Again, this is only half an hour from the local town, so any kind of supplies on food and deliveries on is fairly easy. They produced 350,000 ton from 3 blocks. Ounces from 3 blocks. That is Mountain Block, Target Block, and South Block. Okay, and they did it at a cost of $530 per ounce. This was roughly 60 to 70,000 ounces a year over the lifetime of 2004 to 2009. Later on, a company called Angel Mining set up this underground processing plant that is in here, and they produced from 2011 to 2014. So all of this infrastructure in place. It's basically something that we can take advantage of. So why did they stop? Well, here you can see how they explored this mine. This was a total resource of 580,000 ounces indicated in inferred. And the challenge about this deposit, the good thing about this deposit is it's extremely high grade, right? But the challenge is it has a very high nugget effect. What that means is that when you're drilling it or when you're trying to determine the resources, there can be quite a lot of gap between grade in drill holes that are only half a meter from each other. So you can have 4,000 grams per ton and 0.2 grams per ton. I give you, for example, here is a drill hole that drilled through this deposit here that has 1,000 grams per ton, and then 30 meter a little bit higher up, it went 0.2 grams per ton. Okay, so that is a challenge. But we know this deposit. We know how to drill it and how to work it up. Okay, so what we started to do when we started working on this in 2015, and we acquired it and partnered up with Cyrus Capital on this asset, is that we wanted to understand first how much resources are still left. And now we have a resource of 263,000 ounces at 18.7 grams per ton. Okay, they create a halo around the current workings. What is the most economical for us is to find a strike extension of the resource in this direction and this direction. Open down it underneath this valley and up this area here. This hasn't been drilled, and the vein was never sampled or they never tried to find the vein on the other side of the valley because this is a very steep and challenging terrain. So what we did in the beginning together with SEK is that we defined what was happening here in the mine, and then we extrapolated where the vein would potentially come out on the surface on the other side. To make a long story short, then we found the vein on the other side of the mountain. This is more than 1 kilometer distance. This is 3 times larger than the area than this current workings. Okay? So this is an exploration potential of 1.2 million ounces. So we basically know from where the vein is in the mountain where it's coming out on surface. And what helps us in knowing that is that we're getting extremely high grade from grab sampling, which usually are undervalued. So 32.8 gram per ton, 5.5 gram per ton. Basically anything above 0.2 gram per ton is something that is successful due to the high nutted effect. So our main emphasis here is to know exactly where this vein is, find the structure, because we know it's mineralized. We know it's from these samples that it's mineralized. Okay? So you can see how challenged in these areas as well, but you can also see fairly well where the vein is. Oh, sorry, that was a bit too quick. Right. So in this year's program, we did two things. We actually did three things. We did further mountaineer sampling here. We did drilling here, here, and here. And this drilling was to understand as well as possible where the vein is. Okay? And is to prepare our next year's program. Our next year program, we want to drill as much of this blue area as possible and do it systematically to build up our resources, because that's what we have to do. We need to do it on a very close spacing. And when we finish that, we hope to have created a resource and then we should be ready for a PEA. A PEA, in this sense, we're not doing anything different from what we already have done, what we've already done in the mine. So this is a long hole stoping method, there's a processing plant in place, and all of that. So we're just extending the area that we already have with this extremely high grade material. And we know it already how it is to drill it here. We know it every one hole out of every four hole gives you some proper grade. So we know roughly how to drill it and how to build up these resources, we think. Especially knowing that all of the grade is here. I cannot call it a development play, it is still an exploration play, but it is quite close to it. So these drilling here, what I can already tell you is that from the cores we found the vein, a quartz vein in these holes, and they correlate directly between the outcrop and the main mine, meaning that the vein is coming all the way through. So we care less about the grade, more about the structure. Okay. Furthermore, we also know from this drilling here that the south block, which is below this working here, is open down dip, meaning that there is a larger exploration potential than we thought there would exist there. So we all of a sudden have a larger workplace. So you can see how challenging this drilling is, and this is not something we want to be doing every year. And I will show you how we will unlock the resources there in the next slide. So this is part of what we're doing. So now you're looking at the mountain a little bit from a different angle, and here you can see the drilling that we did this year. For next year, we have a threefold program, obviously combined in one. On the one hand, we want to drill the whole valley floor by surface drilling, very narrowly and in a systematic way to build up resources for our to hopefully get this mine started up and running again. Secondly, we want to drill in between these blocks here, a little bit in here, and that we can do from underground, meaning that no weather or anything will stop us working there. Thirdly, we want to do these two underground development. These are basically adits. This is a crosscut of it. This is supposed to represent the vein. And what we do in these development, they are more than 1 kilometer, is that we fan drill. We go underneath the vein, meaning that when you go underneath the vein, you can't miss the vein. And you can drill it all through. And this is covering more than 300 meters. After we've done these two underground development and drill it all out, then these tunnel will be used as a production tunnel. So you're already carving into your investment cost for the next stage. Okay? So that's before I go into kind of a more early stage. So we really are confident of the structure there. We're confident that the vein is there. We know it's there due to grade, and we've gotten confirmed that in now this year's exploration. And next year exploration will be all focused on getting us to a stage where we can finalize a PEA by the end of 2018 and hopefully start production from then on, or make a mine of it. What I want to also point to is that we have other licenses like Vagar and Tartok region, and I'm going to speak a little bit about that and the exploration potential in Greenland. Again, if you want to buy a listed security in gold, we are the only company, and we have managed to acquire these two regions, the most prominent asset in these two regions in Greenland, which we have a great belief in. So I'm gonna, this Nalunaq is only in the red square here. However, we know that the vein is coming out on surface on 5 different areas, or similar vein, main vein type of structures coming up on surface in 5 different areas over 20-kilometer distance here. So there is a huge regional potential. And this, we explore this by sending out mountaineers, like you saw dangling in the road, sampling vein that are coming out on surface. So it's a fairly inexpensive exploration, and it's something that was done in other region hundreds of years ago when you're starting. So we are the kind of a first comer to the region, and it gives us a lot of opportunity to enlarge our potential. This area here, Vagar, it's granite diorite. It's a little bit different. It's a different rock formation that you would have. It's not than you would have here, which is where the quartz veins are hosted in amphibolites. But this thing here is something we have developed. We just acquired this asset, and there are more than 20 targets, very interesting target, where we are trying to understand if the gold is within the granite, which would then mean that this could be something very, very large, or if it's more associated to the quartz vein. This was drilled roughly 2,000 meters, where they found a lot of gold in quartz vein. Our aim next year is to explore this and try to see if there is actually quite a lot of gold in the granite where the gold is hosted. It just kind of give you an example of something that is simple. And by having a full focus on this Nalunaq project here, it allows us to have our camp here and run everything from here. So it will have a cost saving in there as well. Here I can show you an example of what we did this year. We did some sampling here. This is only 300 meters from our mine, and we think this is a down-thrown block from the mine. That may basically mean additional 300 meters of potential area next to the mine, which we can access underground, assuming that we find a vein area, the quartz vein here. We sampled 10 quartz vein in this phase, over 600 meters. But it's just to kind of show how much exploration potential is there, and it's basically in front of you. Furthermore, there are quartz vein here, and you can see the structure fairly easily why we're looking at it, because it's just sitting there. Thirdly, we have this area called Tartok, which is a greenstone, Oregon greenstone gold belt situated within the craton, similar to what you have in the PDB gold belt. It's 100% exposed, and we did some channel sampling here, and these are the values that we're getting out of the channels straight from quartz vein. So we're instantly, from a very small program for 2 weeks, we're finding quite intriguing result in a grassroots exploration project, and we hold licenses all over this region. So a little bit about our execution here. We did an exploration program for 2.9 million Canadian dollars this year. We only had 2 weeks to plan and get everything there on site and start drilling. We still managed to drill almost 2,500 meters. We did all of the channel sampling and surface, and this was quite challenging condition, as you can see from the picture there. So we pride ourselves to be under budget all of the 5 years that we're there. We tried to take a very good care of the capital that we were trusted with, and we hope to be able to continue to prove that. So this opportunity is a high-grade, extremely high-grade, one of the more high-grade opportunities that you can see in the market today. It has all of the infrastructure in place to fast-track it into production. It's significantly de-risked from the point of view that we found the vein on the other side of the mountain. We just need to drill it out just to define the resources. We have to define resources before we can do any PEA or anything like that. We have the research expansion to different sides of the mountain there, and this district scale potential that I briefly explained here in the end of the presentation. We have very strong cornerstone investors that all participate in the IPO and are very helpful and supporting investors. And I would say that our team that we built up over the past 5 years is very good. We've slowly and gradually built up the team. Me, myself, I'm one of the largest investors in this entity ever since it started. So we're putting the money where our mouth is. And yeah, I think I'll leave it to there.
Timing is perfect. Thank you very much.